Hey everybody, welcome to the video. So yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about the notes. I joined the list of Zach Davis. He has a YouTube channel. Great guy, very diligent student in the Bible, decent in hermeneutics. Although I do think I'm a little better, and I also think I'm a little more detail oriented than he is. So, but so this is one of his articles, notes, if you will, that I looking at. And so he goes over Daniel 12, verse 2. And he thinks it's talking about the spiritual resurrection. And I can see where he's coming from. Daniel 12, 2. He's thinking that the spiritual resurrection. But I'm going to say no, it's actually physical. And I'm going to share with you why. And you can decide for yourself. So if we look at Daniel 12, verse 2, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. So we don't know yet whether we're talking about the physical resurrection or the spiritual resurrection yet. Okay? It's one or the other. Okay? Some to everlasting life and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that are wise shall shine to brighten the firmament. So that happened during their gathering. Alrighty. They left quietly for their gathering, and that was when they were shine. They were with God. It's like it was in the Garden of Eden. All right, those were their final days. Fortunately, we don't have anything documented about that, but we are those like me who diligently studied and put this together exhaustively. We realize that it takes many years for me to figure that out. Okay, and I'm not going to go over all the detail of that right now. And they that turn many to righteousness at the stars are for ever and ever. That is the key to help understand this portion right here, whether the resurrection here, that awoke, whether talk about the physical resurrection or spiritual resurrections, because they is referring to those that were resurrected. You don't know they're spiritual or physical yet. Turn many to righteousness. That is key right there. When did that happen? So if we look at the timeline, so here, and you have access to all the PDFs below, by the way. So this is the Daniel 70th week. All right, this is from AD 26 to AD 33, and the physical resurrection occurred right here. All right, in the timeline. So if we zoom in a little bit more. So we have AD 30, AD 31. So it's April 3rd of AD 30 when Jesus died on the cross. It was that day where the physical resurrection occurred. If we go to Matthew 27, 52 to 53, when Jesus died on the cross, Jesus cried in a loud voice, yield up the spirit. Okay. Then the temple tore, the earth quaked. That's the physical resurrection right there, the earth quaking. The rocks were rent, and the tombs were open. And many bodies saints had fallen asleep were raised. Okay, that is the physical resurrection. Okay, they were raised right at that moment. And so apparently they were there for about 3 days in the graveyards, hanging out. And then coming forth out of the tomb after his resurrection, they entered into the holy city. So it wasn't until after his resurrection, 3 days later, which is on a Saturday, he had rose that Saturday afternoon, had been after the 9th hour. It could not have been 72 hours, less than 72 hours that he was buried. He died on a Wednesday, 9th hour on Wednesday. I have videos on that. So, and I reference other videos too from 119 Ministry. They do an excellent job going over that. So, and then they appeared to many. Okay. So look at the timeline that happened here. So, and remember, Jesus told them, do not marvel. The hour is coming, it's going to happen. That John 5:28. For the hour has come, do not marvel. So they took heed to what he said. They didn't go around writing, oh, this person physically wrote, that person, Daniel who wrote the book of Daniel, here he is, oh my gosh, they didn't do any of that. But that is the physical resurrection right there. That is the fulfillment of Ezekiel 37, where it talks about the house of Israel resurrecting. And so when you look at the vision that Ezekiel received, Ezekiel 37, talk about something about a lot of noise. That is the earthquake. Matthew 27, or the quake. That was the bodies coming together, flesh coming on the bones and dissembling, rising out of the earth. All right, so that's sort of a benchmark. So anyway, so what's going on here is describing this whole verses 1 through 4. It's kind of zoomed out from Daniel's 70th week all the way to its consummation 40 years later at Daniel's 70 weeks. Okay, so when I say consummation, I don't mean taking the 70 weeks and shifting it over to the consummation period, which is from 80:66 to 80:73. And I think that's the mistake that Zach Davis and Mike Sullivan and Don Preston, I don't know if Don Preston still holds that view or not, but that's the mistake they're making. They're taking the entire 490 years and they're shifting it over because they think that everything is supposed to happen inside that 70th week, and that's just not the case. Let's see here. Yeah. So here's Daniel 9:24, and that's where they get confused. All right. So Daniel 9:24 goes over what results due to the 70 weeks. Okay. So it can happen inside the 70th week or it can happen later. So let's see. To seal up vision and prophecy. All right. That's one of the 6 results, Daniel 9:24, happened due to the 70 weeks, okay? And that did not occur until 80:66. So that was 40 years later, after the beginning of the 70th week. 40 years later, Book of Revelation written in 80:66. All the New Testament books were written in 80:66. They're finished, or not written in 80:66. They were finished writing 80:66 about at that point. Now it's seized at that point. No more writing. All penned down. Papyrus. No more writing on papyrus. Okay. So where they get confused, they think, oh, the 70th week had to happen right here during this time, which is 80:66. So they take the whole thing and shift it over. And I just want to say that's not necessary. There's no merit for that. When I look at their argument, why they, beginning of the end of the 70th week, 420 BC, it's just, no. There's no merit for it. So I have an article here where they go over in detail when it actually began. They go through it step by step. So I'll have a link to this below as well. All right. So hopefully you read this article, and they go over, let's see here. Yeah, we also examine the current Jewish chronology. This is Zach Davis and Mike Sullivan and possibly Don Preston, based on their second century calendar, which incorrectly placed the fall of Jerusalem before 20 BC to put Jewish reckoning of the timeline beyond the life of Jesus and attempt to reject him as Messiah. All right, so this is a really good article. I guarantee you, if you read this open mind, you will, like I did, much more satisfied with their research than Mike Sullivan, who placed it 420 BC versus 587 BC. All right, the beginning of Daniel's 70 weeks. So, and I have a video on I can't think of it. The Jubilee years. So I encourage you to watch that, and you'll notice how everything falls in place perfectly with history. And so it definitely 587 BC when it all started. All right, so that's the mistake that I think Zach Davis and Mike Sullivan are making, is shifting it over. They will never be able to explain. Okay, they will never be able to explain the come up with the exact date of the 1335-day prophecy, whereas I can give you those exact dates. So it was from August 15th of 8066. That's day 1 of the 1335 days. This is the day after the lawless one was revealed. Okay, and so you add another 34 days to that, and it brings you to April 10th of 8070. So it happened that was the day, 40th anniversary of the day of Passover. And that was the day they fled. And so Thursday afternoon, so their prayer was answered, not their flight not to place in winter or on the Sabbath. And that evening with the feast of unleavened bread, that's when Titus launched his attack. And now Jerusalem had been surrounded by armies the whole time, but remember Jesus said, "No, your desolation is near." Okay, so Vespasian had surrounded them for quite some time, but it wasn't until his son Titus surrounded, that's when it actually, boom, destruction of the temple was really was really getting hit hard, very fast. Before that, Vespasian was just launching here and there, but it wasn't anywhere near the degree that Titus was doing. So anyway, but yeah, so Zach Davis and myself, they would never be able to get those dates based on their understanding of things. As well, Ed Stevens, no respect to Ed Stevens, I appreciate his research, I value his research, but he's not able to give the dates for many reasons. Okay, well, one, he's believing some of the writings of Eusebius, which is an unreliable source. And so we have to be very discerning what information we consider to be credible and reliable versus writings that are not. So anyway, I'm probably the first person in history outside of first century that saw the 1335-day prophecy when it happened. There was the Festival of Free. Now it all makes sense. When you study that, okay, now you can understand why. Talk about the versions in Book of Revelation and in Matthew 25. It all makes sense. So that's the key that I want to point out, that it's actually talking about the physical resurrection. And he even points out here, thus the earth another way to stay in the ground. Exactly. It makes no sense for a spiritual resurrection for them to come up out of the ground, we're talking physical, and then only be continue on spiritual. You might as well just go straight spiritual right away to begin with. It's easier. I mean, why transform the physical first and then dump their physical body and then go spiritual? That makes no sense. So those are just my thoughts. But yeah, again, I greatly respect Zach Davis. We agree on so many things. I mean, it's so many things, but it's impossible for two people to agree on everything if they're really diligent students of the Bible. I mean, it's so unlikely. You should have two people agree on everything. They're not doing in-depth study. They're not going deep. It's more of a shallower understanding of God's word. That's why they're able to agree on everything. So, And then he mentioned Matthew 13, 36-43, then the righteous shall shine forth the sun. I believe that was during their gathering. All right. So that was, let's go back to here. That was from AD 66 to AD 73. September 11th, AD 66 to September 22nd, AD 73. The time and half a time, the Yom Teruah. It's a feast, 10-day feast. So the time, first one here. So by the way, this line here is the 40th anniversary of the Christ Passover to the very day in the Hebraic calendar. So it's centered around that, the time and half a time, as well as the 1260-day prophecy on both sides of that. So the time and half a time. So you got the first 10-day period of Yom Teruah, then the time, the next two, and a third one, half a time, which brings you to Tishri 5. Tishri 1 is the first day of Yom Teruah, Tishri 10 the last day. So the half a time at day 5 out of 10, that's half. So that brings you to Tishri 5, AD 73, which is the Gregorian September 22nd, AD 73. And then it goes to passage in Daniel 12, when I talk about time and half a time. You have to go backwards from there. Remember, Hebrews was meant to be read from right to left, so you apply that same principle to the calendar. And that's how you get the first day of their gathering. Time and half a time, and which is Yom Teruah, which is Tishri 6, because we're going backwards, not Tishri 5, Tishri 6, which brings you to September 11th, AD 66. which I believe, by the way, just a side note, Jesus' birthday in the Gregorian calendar was September 11th of 80, either 3 BC or 3 or 4 BC. I'm not solidified yet on which of those years, but anyway, that was the time where the perfect came, the Jews who came to Christ that were at their gathering. So the first period here were the stick of Joseph, the Jews who had been scattered throughout the entire Roman Empire. And then you had the stick of Judah, Jews who were at Jerusalem, the temple. They were still going through the 1335 days here at Jerusalem. And they did not flee until Thursday afternoon, April 10th, and they became one stick as of April 11th, AD 70, which I believe in Petra. And then their last day was September 22nd, AD 73. John 6:44 applied. I'll raise them up, Jesus said. That is the spiritual resurrection. Alrighty. So, let's see what else I want to share. Oh yeah, so Zach also mentioned verse 31, Matthew 24. It said, and he shall send forth the angel with great trumpet, and they will gather together like from the four winds, one end of the sky together. That's the outer reaches, okay? When did that happen? That was before, obviously, where they gathered. So that was a period where you're scattered throughout Roman Empire, and they were gathering. Notice it mentioned the four winds. Okay, what did that mean? What did that entail? So if we go to the map here, what's interesting? So Peter said he was in Babylon. Okay, there was only two Babylon at the time: Babylon of Iraq and Babylon of Egypt. The Jews he was writing to, the Jewish Christians, knew instantly which one he was referring to. They knew he wasn't talking about Babylon, Iraq, because that's where they had their captivity. So they knew he was referring to Babylon, Egypt. During that time, in the Jewish mind, that was a safe place. Now, if you look at the topography here, you have all these water channels that funnel to one spot where Peter would have been. So when they left on boat, either the 5 churches that Peter wrote, they would have gone any channel and would have funneled right to him. So logistics had already taken care of. But I want to point out too, John wrote the book of Revelation. Now notice where these churches are. They're between the 5 churches that Peter wrote to and where Peter was. Okay. Now, book of Revelation was written written around March of AD 66, before Peter wrote his epistle, 1 Peter. And he's writing to these 5 churches here, and then John wrote to these 7 churches here, 12 churches, 12. There's some significance there. So he wrote to them first, but basically John pointed out the time is near, is at hand. Okay, so they're ready to go for their gathering. Okay, they're like a tightly loaded spring. So then 5 months later, the lawless one was revealed. Let's go back to the timeline here. So the lawless one was revealed in Jerusalem on August 14th, 1866. Alrighty. So that was, what was the name? Yeah, Eleazar Annius. Okay. He was the one that put an end to sacrifices. I have all that sourced here based on the writing of Josephus. So Peter knew right there, this is the guy. He's been revealed. Just like Paul said, the laws will have to be revealed first for the gathering. So now he's writing 1 Peter to the 5 churches in Asia. And the first thing he says, let's go to 1 Peter 1. Keep in mind, you're a tightly loaded spring at this point. John wrote the book of Revelation, basically telling them, be ready. 2 Thessalonians, be ready, okay? And so right away, Peter, apostle of Jesus Christ, to those, now he's writing to the Jewish Christian. Now keep in mind, Peter, the apostle of the Jew, not Gentile. He's writing to Jewish Christian. To those who reside as aliens scattered. That would have sprang their mind, boom, it's ready, it's time to go for the gathering. Like I said, they were ready to go at that point. So it's a way of Peter telling them, I have identified the lawless one, per what Paul had written. It's time to go. Where do you go? Just 4 chapters later. He points out to them, she who's in Babylon, chosen together with you, sends you greeting, and so does my son. Now, I believe the she here was his wife. Alrighty. Chosen together with you, sends you greeting, and so does my son. Now, some people say church, yeah, that works. But more specifically, in a more intimate sense, it would have been his wife. And so, it's in Babylon. So it's another subtle way of telling him it's time to go to Babylon. All right. Now you have to keep in mind they had to leave quietly. They could not leave with trumpets and saying, "Hey, Gentiles, we're going to head over to gathering. Come follow us in your persecution, so we can experience more bloodshed." No, they had to leave quietly, and so that way the person can follow them. So as you can see here, then Peter wrote later. Now notice where it's placed compared to John wrote. It's even further out. So it's almost like a scooping up, gathering from the corner of the earth, one having the other. Okay, so it starts off here, time to go, and these people here were ready, and they've been communicating and sharing their letters all along anyway. So then they left for the gathering, and so I have a video on that gathering series, a 4-part series on that, and they would have met Peter, and then Peter would have escorted them to Petra, and for the gathering. Those were their final days, and where the perfect came. And side note, Revelation 12 talk about the earth split. That's right here. That's where the earth split for the flood. Petra had the history of flooding, and the earth split to absorb that flood. And their boats would have been right here. And even if those boats got destroyed, it doesn't matter. They're in their final days, and then their last day, they're taken up, spiritual resurrection. They were gone. 1 Thessalonians was fulfilled. So, and side note, Eusebius claimed that they fled to Pella. There are so many problems with that. Let's go to Pella here. First of all, Pella does not have a history of flooding. You don't see where the earth split. Made it difficult for Peter to feed them. The army going through there. Pella had burned around AD 66. Why would they go where it burned? Why would they go from one dangerous situation to another? It's kind of like Three Stooges level of humor, stupidity. I don't think the Jews were that stupid. Okay, so that is definitely false information that Eusebius given. I'm going to my next project, I'll be reading a book by Eusebius, his writings, and giving an analysis on it. It's disinformation, okay? And I'm pretty confident I know why he did that. So anyway, so to hopefully you get a sense why I disagree with Zach, respectfully disagree. Basically what's happening here, Daniel 12:2, it's just giving you an overview, all right? And so again, turn many to righteousness, that began during the Jewish Reformation period, which was the last 3.5 years of Daniel's 70th week. From the time, the middle of the week, Christ cut off the cross, died on the cross, to the day before Peter shared the gospel to Cornelius' household. I believe the gospel in Acts chapter 10, Peter sharing the gospel to Cornelius' household, that was the very day after the 70th week had ended with the Jewish people. And so, yeah. So anyway, those are just my thoughts. Again, Zach is an awesome guy. I encourage you to go to the channel, his YouTube channel, watch his videos. I just want to give my comment why I disagree with him on this. And it's unfortunate that, when we study scripture and we get the hermeneutics going very good, like Zach, I just wish that he's a little more detail oriented and really gets software, really start pinpointing dates down to the hour, using precision level down to the hour, which is what I did. And that's when you come across some pretty amazing stuff. Like exactly 40 years to the day and the hour this happened, and 3.5 years exactly to the hour this happened. You come across some really cool stuff. You're on the right track when you come across some of these things. But I don't think Zach and Mike Sullivan will ever be able to say that. Again, they don't even have their 1335 day figured out yet, when those days actually happen. And I have it figured out, and it all makes sense. Day one with the Festival of Cider Free. So you click on that, it'll give you a little bit of information on that. You can do more research on that on your own. Anyway, so those are my thoughts, and thank you, and I hope you're having an awesome day.